morning, Year 6. Are we well?
Yeah.
My name is Mr. Giblin. I am the head of Religion, Philosophy and Ethics, or RPE, as we call it in the senior school. I think you've probably done some philosophy during your time in junior school. Hands up who thinks they've done some philosophy? Oh, excellent. Well, this will be an experience for you all today then. This is really exciting. What philosophers do, and what we do in senior school when we do philosophy, is about asking big questions. We think really deeply about those things which really matter to us, those things which are important in our lives, but those things which aren't factually understandable. So, things like science is definitely important in your life, isn't it? But we can understand gravity, we can know what gravity is. But with philosophy, we're asking questions about things which don't have those kind of facts and don't have those kind of tests that we can carry out. One of the big things, which I'm really interested in as a philosopher, is the issue of personhood and what makes somebody a person. So, I'm going to give you just 1 minute. I'm going to have to keep my eye on the clock to make sure I don't overrun. 1 minute with the person next to you to think about what you think makes somebody a person. 1 minute, off you go. 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, I'm very aware I want to make sure you get back to your lessons on time, so I'm not going to stop and ask you individually. But some of the things you could have said, or some of the things you might have said, makes you be a person. Being a human makes you a person. You might have said that. You might have said the ability to do certain things, to do certain kind of person stuff. You might have said the ability to think for yourselves. That's important. If you're being a person, you have to be able to think. Or you might have said being able to have certain rights. And having certain rights what makes you a person. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about some of those answers and what they might mean. So, let's do that first one. Being a person means being a human. So look at this. We are all biologically Homo sapiens. All of us are exactly the same as each other, 99.99%. That other 0.01% is what accounts for the different eye colours you have, or the different skin tones that you have, or the different heights that you are. All of those little variations and differences are 0.01% of your genetics. That's quite amazing, isn't it? That we're all so massively similar. But, I do want to say that being a human is not the only thing we need to consider when we talk about being a person. Because, this is where I open my... Because being a human can't just mean being a person. Because not all humans are the same. We have lots of humans who are not completely biologically human anymore. Humans who have artificial limbs, or humans who have prosthetic arms and prosthetic legs. I'm sure when you watch the Paralympics in the summer, you would have seen people with artificial limbs. We are also, I talked about how similar we are genetically, we are 90% the same genetically as a cat. Who has a cat here? So when you go home tonight, you can look at your cat and say, I'm 90% the same genetically as you. Maybe a bit less fluffy, in most of our cases, maybe not mine. We are also 80% genetically the same as a cow. Which is quite odd to think about. Even stranger, we are 50% the same genetically as a banana. Now, you might want to take a moment to look at the person next to you and just say, how banana-like is this person? But if we are so genetically similar to other things, being a human can't be the only thing that makes us a person. I'd like to look at a couple case studies this morning, at least one case study, to decide whether we can give personhood to things which aren't human. So let's look at a case study. We're going to look at a person called Sandra. Sandra comes from Buenos Aires. She was born in 1986, 2 years before me, so she's nearly the same age as me, slightly older than me. She moved to Argentina in 1995. At the age of 13, she had a daughter, but her daughter was taken away from her, taken to China. She was still a baby. It's very sad, she was a big arm. Very sympathetic, by the way. She then, in 2014, was contacted by a legal team, and the legal team argued that Sandra's human rights were being taken away from her, that she was being denied her human rights. She lived in a zoo in Argentina, and she's been denied her rights. She moved to the USA in 2019, just before the pandemic the year after. So she only had a little time to settle into her home in Florida. She's described as sweet and inquisitive, but also quite shy, as I think you would be having lived the life that she's lived. Another striking, important thing about Sandra is that she happens to be an orangutan, which looks like this. This is Sandra. Sandra is actually the first animal to be granted human rights. She's been recognised. I'm going to read the legal definition. Sandra has been legally recognised as a non-human person, which means she's entitled to more or less the same rights as I have and which you have. They recognised that her capacity for thought was so great that she should be given human rights. I think that's a really interesting thing, that we're giving human rights to an animal because of the way in which she thinks and the way in which she perceives herself and perceives the world around her. Now, there are lots of other examples of intelligent animals. You can teach gorillas to do sign language. There's a really interesting gorilla called Coco, who knows about 5,000 words of sign language. They let her adopt a pet kitten because she was so smart. We know that elephants, for example, show things like grief and learning and altruism, and being generous and kind to other people. Elephants use tools. It's a really interesting, you can find this online, kind of video of an elephant figuring out how to get food from behind a screen by using a tool to hook it around and bring it towards them. Fascinating creatures. Now this is all very yay for apes, but it is really important as well. And it's very important for a good reason, because it means we need to think about our own behaviours. And I'm just going to show you some pictures now of the life that some apes lead. Now these pictures are of the destruction which happens to orangutan habitats around the world. These come through things like logging, so where we cut down rainforests to make things for ourselves, so to make books, or to make tables, or to make furniture. But they also come from the destruction of rainforests so that we can plant things there. And we often plant things called palm trees, because we like using palm oil, which is the oil which you get from palm nuts grown on the palm trees. We use that palm oil in things like our food production. We use them in lots of the everyday household things. If you go home tonight and have a look at the ingredients lists on your foods, check and see if it's got any palm oil in it. If that's the case, we need to think, should we be doing this? Should we be using palm oil? Should we be creating these products when it endangers the lives of orangutans who we've just seen can be given personhood? It wouldn't be fair if I came to your house, bulldozed it down and planted some trees there, would it? So if we can't do that to you, why could we do that to an orangutan? It's a really interesting question for us to consider. Now, I know we're keen to get to our lesson. I'll show you one more example. Is it okay if I show you one more example?
Yeah.
Excellent. We're going to learn about Sophia. Now, Sophia is quite young. Sophia is only 4 years old. Sophia has 9 siblings. Also, that's the next one. She enjoys drawing and talking to new people. She especially enjoys elderly people. She likes talking to old people, as many young children do. She has 9 siblings. Hands up, who's got 9 siblings? No, none of you. See, she's got more comments than all of you. 9 siblings. Can you imagine 9 siblings? Gosh. She has already been on TV. She's appeared on Brazilian Elle magazine. She's been on Holly and Phil this morning. She's been in a movie called The White King. She's quite famous for a 4-year-old, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
And also, in 2017, she became a citizen of Saudi Arabia. She also was appointed to the United Nations Development Programme's first ever innovations champion. So she has a job and she's earning money at 4 years old. That's quite a tricky task for someone, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Sophia also happens to be a robot. And I'll just show you a picture of Sophia. And we won't play the video because I'm very conscious of time, but you can go away and you can watch this video. I've sent a link to everyone, they can watch this video at home. She's a robot, so she happens to be a non-human artificial intelligence. but she can express things like her joy in drawing. She can make jokes, and she can make fun of people. She can express desires for things and things she wants to do in her future, and things she's excited about doing in her future, which is very, very cool. Now, this is also very, very important, and this is where you have to have a double click to get past the video. It's important because lots of the things which you might want to do in the future might be better done by artificial intelligences. It might be better to have AI doctors. It's found that artificial intelligent doctors, or robot doctors, are 10% better at diagnosing certain forms of skin cancer than human doctors are. The art which you can see in front of you, the lovely picture here of the two antelope down the bottom of the screen, that was painted by an AI. It's beautiful, isn't it? So maybe art should be done by intelligent machines as well. So those of you who are artists, those of you who go and be doctors, forget it, go and find a new career. These are really important questions, because these are obviously things that we don't want to lose in our society. I want somebody to go out and be doctors. I want somebody to go out and be artists. So how we treat non-human artificial intelligences is also really important for our futures and what that means for our lives. Now, I'm going to end my assembly there.